We're at Morningside Nature Park today in Gainesville. We're standing in front of a cabin that was moved here recently and was built near Orange City in the 1840s. And we're going to take a look at it. This is unique because the cabin was built separate from what is now the kitchen, and the kitchen was built in a different era, about 20-30 years later, in a different area of Alachua County. So we're just going to look, well, we're going to look at both of them, but we need to take each one of them separately to get their full historical value. We're not going to do two videos on them, but we're just going to talk about them separately. So this was built, and as a handyman of sorts, and a person that appreciates craftsmanship, this is amazing. I've seen this in a couple of other things. The fort that we saw in McClenny and a couple other places. This is called dovetail construction, and this is solid. These are original, almost 200-year-old pieces of wood. The guy told me, the docent I talked to said that this was moved here and it was 80% intact. There's been some replacement of a little bit of this and a little bit of that, but for the most part this is 80% original is what he said. So that is pretty doggone cool. This dovetail construction, as they call it, is how you used to build cabinets, dressers, and that sort of thing, armoires. It was it's a very difficult construction, but it's very solid. It's not going anywhere. It's not moving. It's not going anywhere. This thing would have withstood hurricanes, whatever. I mean, this would have, and you can see the. It's really cool, I think, is the shutters. These are obviously, they would have had a dual purpose, but these are for Indians. You're in 1840 Orange Lake area of Alachua County, Florida. You're concerned about being attacked by Indians and potentially ne'er-do-wells. That is really cool. Yep. That is pretty astonishing stuff right there. This is not open for tours. You can't just walk in like we can in some of the others. However, this little bar configuration allows us to stick the camera in and get an idea of the interior. And this is very small. This is probably 300 square feet, maybe 400 at the most. You would have slept here. You would have ate here. There was a loft for the kids, and this was it. And this guy told me that well, that's probably a little too fast. Let me slow that down a little bit. The guy told me that like he said, 9 generations of family members have lived here. The construction is incredible. And just to stand on and in and around something that was built in 1840, it's just incredible. Just incredible. And there's a rose bush. Cool. I didn't notice that before. So that part is the cabin. That stood on its own wherever in Orange Lake for all those years until it was moved here. Pretty neat. This was built in another part of Alachua County. He didn't recall exactly where, but this was built in the 60s or 70s. So this would have been built 20 or 30 years later, and it is a kitchen. So they've brought it here just to sort of represent this whole park this part of this park is to represent an 1870s Alachua farm. They've got animals and that sort of thing, but of course what I was most interested in is these old historic structures. A dining room and area in there. Again, keep in mind the people that lived in this cabin would not have had anything like this. They would have cooked right out of their fireplace and ate right there in whatever chairs. They wouldn't have had some kind of table. Maybe they would have sat outside occasionally. But you can see that the construction is different. And I forget what they call this, but we see this in most of the 1860 on up. For some reason they quit doing the dovetail. I guess it was too difficult. Or maybe they thought this was better. Maybe it was better. I don't know. But I like how they've presented this as being one. It potentially could have been one. This could have been built years later and placed next to this 1840 cabin. But it wasn't. This is from somewhere else. Very cool, very rustic. This kitchen is almost as big as the kitchen dining area is almost as big as the cabin itself. There's the fireplace, classic Florida construction up off the ground to allow for ventilation. I didn't jerk the camera around too much there. So that's the cabin, 1840. I think he said a guy named Harold built it. I'll have to get more research on that before I post the video.